Let's bring in Congressman Jason Chaffetz. He's a Republican from Utah. He's joining us now from Capitol Hill. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate having you here on New Day.
Good morning.
So the obvious question is, what can you do about it? Can you compromise the G20? What kind of message can you send? How can you deal with what just happened?
Well, the Obama administration has their hands full. First of all, I think this says a lot about Mr. Snowden himself. It says a lot about his intentions, who he is. I think it's ridiculous for anybody to use the word freedom and Russia in the same sentence. His new freedom? I don't think so. It really does, I think, put some pressure on how we do these security clearances. Are we going to continue to use these contractors? That's something we have to dive into to make sure that this doesn't ever happen again. But as far as it goes with relations with Russia, you know, President Obama, when he was candidate Obama, said this was going to be a strong point, and every story you've done since at the top of the hour are all of these international problems. This has been a real weakness in this White House.
You've been very critical of the surveillance programs that Edward Snowden uncovered. You voted to kind of strip some funding for NSA. That amendment failed, though. But many of your colleagues, like the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, Mike Rogers, he says these programs are keeping Americans safe. Do you not agree?
Well, this is the national dialogue and discussion we have to have, and I just don't believe you're going to give up every liberty, every freedom in the name of security. I think a lot of these things go way too far, and if you go back and you look at the intention of legislation that passed prior to my coming to the United States Congress, I think it's very clear from that legislation that it had to do with the collection of this data. And we're going to have, again, a nice national dialogue about, for instance, geolocation and other types of things. Just because law enforcement or the government can do something doesn't mean we necessarily should do it. And that's my underlying concern.
One of the things that came out in all this is that you guys down there in Washington didn't know everything you should need to know about these programs, so hopefully that changes at least. Let me ask you this. Let's switch topics to Benghazi. You've been active on this. What is your concern with the investigation there? What is your suspicion that is fueling this level of questioning?
We have 4 dead Americans, and we have not brought anybody to justice. Why is it that we're almost 11 months after the fact and we have nobody that's been captured or killed? How come the State Department, how come the Pentagon, how come the White House is still not sharing very pertinent information about what happened? How is it that the White House is referring this, now the President himself, his spokesperson, calling these phony, that is offensive to people who have lost their lives, laid down their lives, and now here we are on the verge of an attack potentially on embassies worldwide, and I worry that we don't have the physical infrastructure that we need. We don't have the security forces that we need. We're trying to help solve this problem, but it takes a give and take with the White House, the administration, and the United States Congress. But I want the same tenacity that the FBI and the administration had on capturing those in Boston when there was a terrorist attack, as there was the terrorist attack in Benghazi, and not call it a phony scandal. That's ridiculous.
Let me ask you about what you're talking about here, and it is connected. The State Department's announced, as you mentioned, that embassies and consulates are going to be closed on Sunday due to our sources to CNN, our Barbara Starr, saying because of a credible threat. What are you hearing? I mean, you're on the House Homeland Security Committee. What is the threat that you're hearing about?
Well, there are threats that are coming at us on a daily basis, but this rises to a new level. Obviously, can't talk about some of the things that you hear in some of the classified settings, but I'm glad they're taking it seriously. There is a very worldwide threat out there.
Do you know how many embassies and consulates are being closed?
No, I don't at this point. But it goes to our point that we've been saying for a lot of years here is we have got to make sure that we have an effective counterterrorism program in place. We have to take this threat very seriously, and it's not, as the president campaigned on, you know, Al-Qaeda's on the run and everything's fine. That was the prevailing attitude, and now I think we're on the receiving end of the reality that was not true, and it's not true today.
All right, Congressman Jason Chaffetz, thank you very much for joining us. Also emphasizes the importance of keeping our troops well paid, keeping the men and women out in the field being well paid. Maybe not the best place for budget cuts. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Congressman.
Thank you.